When Moses and Aaron went to see the Pharaoh, it went exactly as God had said it would. When Moses and Aaron told the Pharaoh, "Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness," the Pharaoh told them he didn't know God, he didn't have to listen to God, and he wasn't going to let them go. Moses and Aaron explained that the God of the Hebrews had met with them, and they were in danger if he did not let them do what God was telling them to do. They were afraid God would afflict them, the Jews, with a fatal epidemic disease such as bubonic plague, or that he would send soldiers to kill them if they did not do this. Apparently, they were too afraid to tell Pharaoh what God had really said, that God was going to punish the Pharaoh and the Egyptians if they did not listen to him. Pharaoh's response to their heartfelt plea was, "Why aren't you working? Get back to work. You're messing up production." Later that day, Pharaoh told their taskmasters and their officers, who were themselves Jews who had been placed over the common laborers, make their work harder. Up to now, someone had been gathering the straw that they put in the bricks for them, but from now on, the Hebrews could gather their own straw. And the Pharaoh told them to tell the Jews that he was doing this because they asked for permission to worship God. In other words, God had turned up the pressure on the Pharaoh, and now the Pharaoh was going to turn up the pressure on God's people. The taskmasters and their officers did as the Pharaoh told them, but it didn't work very well, and the Pharaoh ended up beating the officers because production rates fell. The officers were upset, but when they tried to explain it to the Pharaoh, he said it was their fault. And when they left Pharaoh and saw Moses and Aaron, they let them have it. "The Pharaoh is mad at us, and it's your fault. If you don't stop, he will kill us." And do you know what Moses did? He prayed for understanding and help. "God, I thought you sent me to help, and it looks like I'm just making it worse. They are still slaves, and now the Pharaoh is mad at them." God told Moses, "It's time." God had sent his ambassador Moses to speak with the Pharaoh about his people, the Jews, but the Pharaoh would not listen. He took it out on the Jews. So God would punish the Pharaoh and his people, the Egyptians. God told Moses to tell the Jews that it was time. But when Moses did that, they would not listen. They were fed up with the whole business. Then God sent Moses and Aaron to talk with the Pharaoh one last time before he started punishing them with the 10 plagues. The Bible tells us that Moses was 80 years old when he and Aaron went to see the Pharaoh, that he cast his rod on the ground before the Pharaoh, and that it became a serpent. However, the Pharaoh's wise men and sorcerers did the same thing. They all cast down their rods, and they all became serpents too. But then Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. In other words, God's power is mightier than man's power. But God hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not give in, and God told Moses, "Pharaoh's heart is hardened, he refuseth to let the people go." God told Moses, "I want you to meet him at the river in the morning, smote it, and turn it to blood." And in Moses, Part 6, we will see that Moses did this, and that this was the beginning of the 10 plagues that God brought on the Pharaoh and Egypt.